Welcome to episode 109 of the Toadstool Boardroom for the week of October 9th, 2024. I'm Logan Plant, and finally we got the gang all back together. Joining me this week, Chris Shriver. Hey, Chris.
Hooray.
And back after 2 weeks off and a trip around the world, it's Justin Korais. How you doing, Justin?
Heart hands for everybody. Heart, peace, hands for everybody. I am so excited to be back. I have some stories to share with everybody, and I just missed you guys so much.
Yeah, we missed you too, and the fans of the Boardroom did as well. And we didn't really know what the lead topic was going to be this week. I thought it was going to be Justin's Japan Adventures, but Nintendo always has other plans in store. And this morning, they dropped a piece of news so crazy, I was seriously having to question if I was still asleep or not. But I won't have that problem for much longer, because I'll be wide awake thanks to the new Nintendo Sound Clock Alarmo, which they announced this morning. It was a 5-minute trailer, and they even dropped a 4-part Ask the Developer for this thing. A full developer breakdown with the interviews and inside information about this alarm clock. This is such a wild announcement from them today. Let's get the base details before I get your reactions from this. It's out now on My Nintendo Store, and it's at Nintendo New York, and it's coming to all retailers in early 2025. It costs $100, $99.99 retail, and it wakes you up with songs and sounds from Super Mario Odyssey, from Zelda Breath of the Wild, from Splatoon 3, from Ring Fit Adventure, and from Pikmin 4. This thing connects to the internet, and soon Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and Animal Crossing packs will be coming as a free update. You have to be a Switch Online subscriber to use this thing. I don't know if you guys caught that little asterisk in the trailer. You have to subscribe to use the full features of this alarm clock, which is hilarious. It also tracks your sleep, and when you're waking up and moving and you're waving your arm, it will play coin sound effects from Super Mario Odyssey. You can wave to turn it off. If you don't wake up fast enough, the calm, soothing voice of, I guess, Mario will be replaced by a very angry Bowser who will scream at you to wake up. This is real. This is a real thing. It's unbelievable. There's a lot more to get into with the devs, and there's actually some really cool history that I want to get into about Satoru Iwata and a bunch of stuff from 10 years ago now. But let's first just talk about the product itself. Justin, what do you think of this thing?
I love it. I love it so much. I really do. It's on the pricey side. I couldn't imagine spending $100 for an alarm clock, although maybe I couldn't before, because I gotta say, I love it.
You can now, yeah.
It looks great. It has a very, just appealing profile with its kind of, soft red tones and smooth lines. The fact that, you have, 5 different games that you can, choose from to have a program run with different scenes to do. And, like everything Nintendo does, it seems like they go all in on these themes. They do a lot of really clever, fun stuff with them. You gave the Bowser example for when you don't wake up your alarm. There's a different one themed to each of the different games that you do. So, me with rocking the Zelda clock with the little motion sensor, I will be honest, I'm a night person. I am not good at getting up in the morning, and something like that I think could work really well for me. And the fact that it has some kind of little ballyhoo or cheer for you when you do successfully drag yourself out of bed, which, let's be honest, we all deserve a little bit of praise every day when we get out of bed. It's so weird. It's so Nintendo. It's with a lifestyle product line theme that is so funny, because it's something that was talked about several years ago as Nintendo wanting to become more of a lifestyle company, and little by little they've kind of done that actually extremely well. It's great. Here's my one bummer, and the one reason why I probably won't get it is they say right from the get-go that it is only meant to work with one person, and just as a married dude with a wife, there's more than one of me in there, so it seems like it may not work well with multiple sleepers, people getting up at different times, going to bed at different times, things like that. So that's kind of the one bummer. Other than that, though, I think it's great.
What about for your kids? Is this something you could see them wanting or liking? I don't know what age of kid would really like this.
As a matter of fact, I do. In particular, I think my son would like it quite a bit. I'm not going to buy a $100 alarm clock for him, though.
There you go. That's the sticking point, is the price on this thing. And
sticker point.
I look at it, and it seems like it's for a very, very niche crowd because of the price point. I think that this is something that could be really, really huge, but it's just a less functional Amazon Echo, but with Nintendo stuff, or everybody just uses their phone for their alarm clock. And then you pair in the fact that it's kind of a singles only thing, and that wipes out another huge sector of your audience potentially. And I don't know how successful this thing is going to be. I don't know. We didn't know how successful Ring Fit Adventure was going to be, and then it sold 10 million copies. So they know better than we do if this thing's going to be a hit. But the price point and some of the limitations of it, I'm not sure how big the market is for this thing. What do you think, Chris?
I look forward to buying this for $20 at Target. And they inevitably have way too many of them at the end of next year.
You think so? That low? $20?
I mean, this is
Nintendo greatest.
This has so many. I think it's a cool product. Don't get me wrong. I like Justin said, like aesthetically, I think it's a very cool design. I have a hard time with alarms in general. Like one of our listeners, I think it was Rachel in our Discord, said, and I agree with her, that often if you pick an alarm, like a song for an alarm, you end up hating it. So like you end up like with this PTSD, like really bad association with that thing.
Yeah.
And I feel like an alarm is just not a product that I want to associate Nintendo with. Like, I don't want to hate the sound of a Mario coin every time I hear it.
Yeah.
You know, or insert any other, you know, thing here. From on paper, if I'm at Nintendo and I'm trying to think of a product where it's like, how do we have a dedicated thing that you could make the launch of a new Mario Party an event? It's like, hey, what if the day that you get your, or what if you have your Alarmo set up and like a few days before that, it's, hey, the Alarmo alarm pack is now available for this game that's coming. And they're built. It's just another way to build that hype.
I didn't even thought about
and
that.
kind of be
That's
locked
so
into that
cool.
ecosystem. Oh yeah, I mean it's Wi-Fi connected, but like you said, Logan, like all of those asterisks of you need Nintendo Switch Online, you can't use it for more than one person. It has the makings of what should be a very cool thing, and I think if they wanted to really make it like a more permanent product in their lineup, like they could make some changes where you could adjust some settings. Like let's say you don't want the, as I'm rising out of bed, 1,000 noises are happening. Like I feel like I would just sprint to that thing and chuck it across the room.
It's $100
or a V2. Yeah. Or a V2 that does support two people. But I think for somebody like my nephew who is 5, like he would love this, but I said it to my brother this morning. He was like, "Who's spending $100 on an alarm clock for their kid?" Like, it's just there's so much going against it.
There's so many better things that you could buy as a gift for $100. It is a cool novelty, but I totally am with you, Chris, on one of the main uses I thought of for this thing was if I had this thing, I would just use it as a desk clock in my office. That's where all my Nintendo stuff is. That's where all this nerdy stuff lives in my home. And I'm not putting that thing on my nightstand. I'm not going to sleep with that every night. And I totally feel like I would resent Jump Up Superstar if I heard that at 6:30 a.m. when my alarm goes off. I would hate it. I would absolutely hate it. I would go and replay Super Mario Odyssey and I'd be triggered by it when I get to that best scene in the game. So no, I'm not doing that. You just use the basic stock Samsung alarm sound is basically what I do. I don't want a song that I love to be that. And I obviously am an enormous Nintendo fan, one of the biggest out there. I don't need to wake up to Nintendo noises. I just don't. I'm not that deep into it that it needs to become a part of every moment of my life, literally from the first time I open my eyes to when I go to bed. I just don't need that. So for me, it's like that's a bridge too far for me, even as a fan of a super fan of something.
We found the line.
Yeah, I think we did.
Yeah, this is it. Yeah. I didn't read the Ask the Developer, but is this born out of the Game & Watch products that they put out a few years back? Where
no, I think it was in development a long ways before that. They've been working on this thing much longer than that. Yeah. We'll get into that in a second. I wanted to wrap up by saying I also totally agree, Chris, with what you were saying about Nintendo Directs. If I had this thing and it was the night before a 7 a.m. Direct, sure, I'll set it for that night only. And I wake up to a Mario song. I'm like, all right, let's go. Because Nintendo Directs as an adult that's a massive Nintendo fan, those are the closest feeling you get to recapturing like Christmas morning as a kid magic, right? Because you see these products you're eventually going to end up with, and it just does have that feeling of what's going to be inside, and then the reveals are always great. So that is the 3 times a year I would use this thing, but otherwise it would just sit in my office as kind of a desk clock, which is cool too. I don't know if I'm going to do it. It's just too expensive.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing I thought too, at least for younger people, I wonder if this is their way of, like, if further down the line, this thing could get updates. If you're going to assume that somebody between the ages of, I'll say, 4 and 12 are not on social media, they're not locked into the Nintendo of America Twitter account and Facebook and all that. This is a direct gateway for Nintendo to communicate with that core audience outside of like YouTube and things like that. Like, they don't have to compete with anybody because it is literally like, here's the direct path to this person. I think if it ends up becoming that, like, that makes sense as a product to me. But in the Nintendo way, there's a good chance that they limit it too much, and it's like the guardrails are too strong on this thing.
You know what I think, Logan? I think we should buy one for Chris for Christmas and see how long it takes him to hack it and put an emulator on it.
To put Android on it?
I don't think it would take him long.
Nope.
I hooked it up to a PC. Yeah.
I almost made a joke, and I guess I'm making it now, is that in the specs for this thing on the store page, it says LCD screen. I was like, oh, it's not OLED. I'm not buying it. It's not good enough for me. I need them to make a mod kit for the Alarmo so I can get an OLED screen in there.
Get your
but let's
Alarmo
talk a little bit. Yeah, what was that?
I said get your Alarmo LED.
Okay. Yeah, there we go. I knew it was a dad joke. I just needed to make sure I heard it.
Guess who's back?
Let's talk a little bit about the history of some of this thing, because this is where I think things are really interesting and cool about this. The history of this dates back 10 years to 2014, when Satoru Iwata was still with us. He was still the president of Nintendo, and they're coming off the worst financial year in the company's history, and not just the video game company's history, Nintendo's history, dating back 125 years at the time. That was the lowest of the low. And they revealed these plans at their shareholder meeting to improve a customer's quality of life through non-wearable technology, right? This kicked off so many think pieces and rumor mills about what is Nintendo's transition into the lifestyle space going to look like. And the first one that was teased later that year was a device designed to be placed on your bedside table that tracks a user's sleep. That's what they revealed today, 10 years later. It's unbelievable, the path that this thing went on. And this is a quote. This is from Iwata in 2014. He was expanding on the concept of non-wearable, saying the sleep tracking device won't require wearing, contact, operation, waiting time, or installation effort on the part of the user. And they show this presentation slide that has a concept of this device on your bedside table. At one point, there's a patent that it was going to have a projector that put images on your ceiling. That was a patent that came out that everyone was tying to this thing too. Like in 2015, that doesn't seem to be a part of this. Maybe in a version 2 or something, they'll return to that idea. But this was basically seen by Iwata as a new blue ocean to pursue, to go after a completely new market that nobody else really was at the time. And then after Iwata passed away in 2015, interim Nintendo president Tatsumi Kimishima said that the sleep sensor was shelved indefinitely. And then years later, they said a report from Nikkei, which is a Japanese news publication, said this whole initiative was canceled. It was done. They axed it. They're not pursuing quality of life anymore. That turned out to be false, because then, remember Pokemon Sleep, they revealed that thing, which then took 3 or 4 years to come out. People at a press conference asked, hey, is this related to your quality of life thing that you shelved a few years ago? And Nintendo said, no, but actually it's not shelved. We're still doing it. And then a patent surfaces in 2020, which shows Mario stretching and waking up out of bed as this device on his nightstand says, you slept 7 hours, good job, keep it up, get enough sleep. And that was 4 years ago, and here we are now. So this thing has been on a 10-year journey that started as an Iwata brainchild and led to now. And I am shocked that the Ask the Developer didn't mention a word of that. They just didn't talk about this. This being kind of one of the last remaining Iwata products that Nintendo is releasing, they didn't go with that. They kind of just left that by the wayside and left people like me to write up a story about it this morning to kind of let people know that he was intimately involved with this. This was a huge push for them at a time of a totally different company than the Nintendo we know today. And it somehow made it through development 10 years later. And I just think that's amazing.
You know, this tells me vitality sensor.
What?
It's not dead.
That was what I was going to say earlier. That's where I thought he was going with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But well, guys, what do you think of the Iwata connection here? I just think it's phenomenal.
Beautiful. I love
this product exists.
I adore it. And I think, you know, just as somebody who does, you know, to an extent romanticize the company, I'm glad the clock exists, if for no other reason than that.
He's glad the clock exists, everybody. I feel the same way, though. It's such a bizarre product, and it is totally easy to dunk on and make fun of. But when you consider that historical aspect of it, that is 10 years ago now, which is really hard for me to believe that we're that far removed from Iwata still being in charge of the company. And then for this team of developers, the same team that worked on things like Labo, like Ring Fit Adventure, like Mario Kart Live, basically all the weird shit that Nintendo has made this generation, and they're making this too, and it's just super cool.
What wow, that really just left my brain, didn't it? What do you think that they're doing with the sleep data?
Like,
what would Nintendo need for that? Yeah. Because I haven't been able to figure that out. The only thing that I thought was, and I don't even know if this makes sense, but like, do they re-release a new version of Wii Fit or Ring Fit Adventure or some game like that? And then, like, wouldn't it be interesting if they're like, okay, this thing requires Nintendo Switch Online. They release this new game that has some sort of physical fitness aspect to it. And then they correlate that data together and they go, we can see from people that own Alarmo and play this game that their sleep patterns actually improved when they started playing this game. Like, that would be a weird but cool but creepy thing that they could. I'm just tinfoil hatting. But you know what I mean?
They will have all that data, and
yeah,
who knows? Maybe they will use it for something. There's going to be a Ring Fit sequel on maybe just Switch, maybe not even the Switch successor. They've got to put out another one of those things, and maybe it will have functionality with this thing, and it will become this hub where you can exercise, and maybe they even do something with meals and tracking what you've eaten, something like that, like a food diary, and tracking your sleep, and it just turns into this. Maybe in fact, or brain age to it, right? Like Nintendo has all these little pieces of different products that are supposed to improve various aspects of your life in different ways. And I could see this being step one to building towards a new game, a new piece of software that kind of bundles that all in together to one. Because right now it's very piecemeal. And Pokemon has a lot of their own stuff too, right? They have the toothbrushing app, and they have Pokemon Go, which encourages activity. And they have Nintendo has Pikmin Bloom and other things like this. So I definitely think that this isn't just a one-off. There's going to be some piece of software that's going to work with this thing at some point. If it sells well. If it totally is a dud, maybe not.
A common thing in a lot of RPGs is a like well-rested XP bonus. I could see some crossover. Get like well-rested on your clock and get an XP bonus in Ring Fit Adventure too.
Yeah. But again, we'll see how many people buy this. We're 3 people who all aren't going to, it seems like. And then 2 of you have kids, and you've said, I'm not going to buy a $100 alarm clock for my kids. And we are, if it's not us, then who is it? I just really don't know. If you guys aren't getting them for yourselves or your kids, and I'm not getting it for myself, I don't know how many people out there are going to. I just don't.
If it goes on sale or has a price drop, my mind could change.
Yeah, I agree. If I get
to have a price drop.
Oh, yeah, instantaneously.
Mm-hmm. Or if I could use my Nintendo Gold points that I've stacked up on this thing, but I don't think that you can. Even then, I would consider it, but it's just a little bit too pricey as it is, and I don't want to wake up to the sound of Splatoon gunshots. That is the weirdest moment in the trailer. That is so crazy.
That was my attempt.
I couldn't hear that, but I'm hoping it came through on the recording. The facial expression was great. Okay, so that is Nintendo Sound Clock Alarmo. Crazy thing. that is real, that Nintendo showed us today. Awesome hardware reveal. We've been waiting for a hardware reveal, and they gave us one. And then later today, the day we're recording here on the 9th, they weren't done. They announced something else very interesting and strange that we haven't really seen them do before. They put out a tweet this afternoon that said, we will be performing a test related to a new feature for Nintendo Switch Online on Nintendo Switch, starting at 8 a.m. Pacific on October 10th, so that's already passed by the time this episode goes up. Existing Nintendo Switch Online plus expansion pack members will be able to apply to participate on a first-come, first-served basis. What is this? They've never done anything like this, but they want 10,000 people worldwide to sign up for this thing and test some new feature on Switch Online. Chris, what is so big that they would need this large of a test audience to try out? I don't know what this is going to be.
There's a few things that it could be. They could be dropping... So it specifically is people that have Nintendo Switch Online Expansion Pass.
Mm-hmm.
It could be GameCube games with online support. That was one thing that I thought. I don't know.
Why do they need 10,000 people to test it when we didn't need that for N64? They just gave that to us.
It could be the way in which their emulator is running. I mean,
Okay.
it shouldn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
It really shouldn't matter. All that is happening on the hardware layer. The other thing that I thought is they could be introducing some sort of chat system, almost like a Discord type of thing, and actually running it natively on the hardware. If they're not sure how well it's actually going to run on Switch consoles across I'll say generations, but across models of Switch consoles, because there's so many different hardware revisions at this point. I could see it being that. The other one that I saw is it could be to us. It could be appear as nothing. Whoever's in the beta, I should say, it could appear as nothing. And what really they're doing is they're testing. Is it possible does crossplay work between a Switch successor and this Switch? Because they've never had a Nintendo console that's come out that has been able to be cross-compatible across any other platform.
Could you not play DS games or Wii games online on your Wii U?
You could.
But I don't know if that I would into a Wii, right? You turn your Wii U into Wii.
Yeah, you turn. It is Wii. That's not the same thing. Which if that's what it is, then they're not going about the Switch 2 the same way. They're not emulating the Wii hardware and OS and process and all that. It is going to be running Switch games natively on a next-gen console. And they just need to make sure it works. They may not have either the automated testing in place to be able to do this across a large scale, or they're not comfortable with doing it at a large enough scale without real people actually trying it. Those are the three big ones that came to mind. But GameCube would be weird at this stage of the game. So I feel like it's got to be one of the other two. Or it's something I haven't thought of, which is obviously possible. But
our only clue right now is, one, they're not telling us what it is, so that means they have to announce this at some point. And two, they said that testers need to download an exclusive piece of software for this test. So you are adding something new to your Switch, and they're not telling us what it is yet. Justin, you were nodding a lot when Chris mentioned voice chat. Do you think that's what this is going to be?
So, yeah, clearly they're testing something that involves internet traffic, right? That's why they're doing it at scale. That's why they have this many people. So either something, sent peer-to-peer or to and from servers. And to me, voice chat is one that we've talked about as a potential feature for the successor console. And I think that would be a logical thing to test at numbers like this. Could absolutely be things like online gameplay functionality. I do think it's very likely related primarily to the upcoming console. And so I think that's extremely plausible. I think it absolutely has everything to do with the fact of how consoles can communicate either with a server simultaneously or through servers with one another. Or conversely, I don't know if you remember the Wii to Wii U animation where it's Pikmin going through the pipes. Maybe they just need to make sure that Pikmin can find their way through all the pipes.
Yeah. These are good theories. I actually hadn't thought about it at all in terms of the next console. I thought it was going to be some sort of new piece of software that they're releasing, but this is crazy. We have never seen them do something like this. This is a beta test from Nintendo, a public beta with 10,000 people. That's crazy to me. And I'm going to set my Alarmo to be there at 8 a.m. to sign up tomorrow morning, and hopefully I can get in. But what do you guys think? Do you think there's going to be high demand to get in this thing? Do you think that Nintendo fans are going to be there to try and click into this thing?
I think we should all try and sign up for it. And I think the odds are that none of us get in.
Yeah, I agree.
They said something like, we'll have a 4-day period where you can sign up. And I'm thinking, that's going to be over in 5 minutes. It is going to be done, right?
No. So it's not
like a lottery,
it's not,
I think.
It's not the first people that get in. You have 4 days to sign up.
It is the first people that get in every region except Japan.
Oh, interesting.
It is first come, first serve. You have to be there at 8 a.m. to sign up.
8 a.m. Jump up, superstars. Let's do this.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, we definitely won't get in then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If it's 10,000 total,
seconds.
What is that? Yeah, that's literally not. It's a second. It's like 1 second.
Yeah, and so I like if they are restricting it specifically, and they're going to validate that it's online plus expansion pass. Like, you may have a little window there of a couple of minutes to get in, but I think it's going to fill up extremely fast.
That is an incredibly small number of people.
It is. And it's worldwide. This isn't just for the region. And then Japan is the only place they're doing the raffle system. So we don't know when this is even going to take place. They haven't said yet. We don't know when the test is or what it is. We have no idea. Are they going to announce the product this is for before we see the test?
They said when the test is going to be. It's between it's 1 week after this happens.
Okay.
It's over the course of 4 or 5 days that they're doing it.
So to sign up, you go to this portal they have. You can sign in to link your Nintendo account to this application process. This is all outdated info because it's priority over when you're listening to this, but you can link your account to the application page, and then it rolls over at 7:59 a.m. Pacific. So it's not 8 a.m., it's a minute early. So if you're there at 7:59, link to your account, refresh the page so that button goes live, that's going to be your best shot to get in this thing. So I hope one of us makes it. And then are they going to have 10,000 people sign NDAs? Because there's no way that it's not going to get out what people are doing. Look at what Valve tried to do.
I'll bet the reason why they were waiting was so that they could hire 10,000 lawyers to sue people for breaking NDAs.
Yeah. That's actually their whole game here. They're just becoming so legally charged.
They're debuting Nintendo Legal next year.
Sounds fun.
Chris, this was the other thing that I thought too was if it's for the next console and if there's anything in here that is indicative of what is on that console, what the console looks like, what it's named, anything like that at all, they have to show it before this happens.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's assuming it's in there and that's what it's for.
They didn't say this has nothing to do with the successor. And they do say that about everything. And I'm just putting that together right now because I was literally 10 seconds ago, I was about to say I don't think it's for the successor. But now that I'm putting that together, they always tell us when it's not. Always. And they didn't this time. Does that mean they're going to reveal this thing before this testing period starts?
10,000 people are going to log on, and then they're just going to hear a whisper. It's called the Super Switch. And then boom, disconnect.
That's it. That's it. Yeah.
That's all the app is.
That's it.
That sounds good.
What if it's a giant troll and that's all it is? 10,000 people get to see the Switch before anyone else, the next Switch before anyone else.
See, what's interesting is that they do want their most loyal customers to be the ones that are part of this because you have to subscribe to expansion packs specifically. So it's the highest tier of their service. And you had to have been a member before 2:59 p.m. today. They put this tweet out at 3. So you can't go sign up to be a part of this thing. You have to have already been an existing subscriber to their highest online tier. So they want people to be in this thing that are going to care about whatever it is they're showing. So yeah, I think we're tinfoil hatting a little bit hard right now. I think it might still just be for the normal Switch because the way they phrase this tweet is a test related to a new feature for Nintendo Switch Online on Nintendo Switch.
The way things are going, they're testing the multiplayer in their new F-Zero game.
F-Zero 10,000. I would be there day one. That sounds awesome. But we'll see. I'm also curious to see if we're going to know what this thing is tomorrow when we sign up, or if we're not going to know until you get into it, or until you don't get into it. And no idea. Yeah. But let us know if you made it in. Email us, toadstoolboardroom@gmail.com. I'm going to try really hard to get in. I'll probably have it on my phone and my laptop just in case to see if I can make at least one of them work, because I think it's going to be tough to get in. So, yep, that is 8 a.m. tomorrow, the day this episode goes up. We'll know if we're in or not, so excited to see what that is. All right, let's move on and talk about Justin's Japan adventures. You went to Tokyo Game Show, you went to Nintendo Tokyo, and you did a ton of other stuff. First, I want to hear this is your first time in Japan. What do you think?
It was the coolest thing ever. I will say, if like me, you grew up as like a Nintendo kid and all the coolest games in the world came from Japan and all the cool anime came from Japan, and you grew up with this like romanticized idea of what it might be like out there. Honestly, it's really not far off. It's amazing over there. So my time was split between Makuhari and Chiba, which is where Tokyo Game Show actually takes place. It's about an hour via train outside of Tokyo. And then I spent, I think, 4 days in Tokyo proper. And it was amazing. It's a beautiful country, unimaginably courteous people. The stores are cool. The food was incredible everywhere I went. Like I literally never planned ahead for meals. I just went out and found something that looked great, and it was always amazing. By the end of it, I was getting everywhere all over the city using entirely via the transit system, because it is so easy and so reliable and so fast. It was great. I mixed in some great tourism. I went to the Imperial Palace. I saw an amazing temple. Definitely spent some time at the Nintendo store. And what's cool about the Nintendo store is, like, not only is the shop itself amazing, but like on that same floor there is a Pokemon Center, which is like tangentially related, but it is a separate store. There's also a Capcom store. So I got to like go peruse a bunch of like Monster Hunter stuff.
Take a picture with a giant sword that's on at the Capcom store, the giant Monster Hunter sword.
I don't think there was a giant Monster Hunter.
They get rid of it. Oh, it was a world thing. Maybe they got rid of it because Wilds is coming. Interesting.
Yeah,
it was there when I was there last year.
There's the biggest stinking Mewtwo you've ever seen in your life in this like tank at the Pokemon store. I think it's meant to be life size, and if it is, oh my god, Pokemon in real life would be so terrifying.
Yeah, Mewtwo he's freaky. He's a freaky dude.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about what you bought at the Nintendo Tokyo store? I know you got quite the haul.
Yeah, I did. I did really, really well. I shared a picture of everything in a Discord, not to always plug our Discord. But I did pretty well for myself. So right now, if you take a look, I got this really cool hoodie with a little Triforce zipper. Zelda symbol, has a big Tears of the Kingdom symbol on the back. I bought while I was there, bought my copy of Echoes of Wisdom.
Awesome.
Nice.
Which, thanks to exchange rates, the only way you can get a discount on Nintendo software nowadays is fly to Japan or somewhere where the dollar has the advantage. And if you're from somewhere where the dollar doesn't have the advantage, sorry, your host. One of my favorite finds, though, was my Yoshi teapot. It's this lovely little tea set. Oh, I love it.
It's amazing.
It's got the cup on top. Even has the little screen on the inside, so you can use your own tea leaves and such.
Loose tea bags? Loose tea leaves?
Yeah, exactly. So you can do it up proper.
Seems like something Chris Driver would own.
Oh yeah, totally. I bought a bunch of other stuff. Logan, I need to get your details because I bought you the Tears of the Kingdom glider floor mat, so I need to send that your way.
You're my hero. I'm so psyched for that thing.
Oh yeah, and like I got some posters, I got a bunch of pins. I could have spent an infinite sum of money there. I bought plushes of various types, and I do actually have a really, really fun story from there. So I'm there at the store, and I've been perusing for a while. I've got a giant bag full of way too much stuff that I'm going to look ridiculous carrying back to the hotel. Prototypical tourist. But while I'm there, and I will say, like, something to understand about Japan is, like, if you are very, like, U.S. centric, something that you might notice if you go to places like Mexico is it like most places where you'll go as a tourist, like, everybody speaks some English, things like that. That's not necessarily the case in Japan. Like, it is very much a, like, if they know it, great. If not, well, I mean, that's you're visiting their country. It's on you to figure that out, which I totally respect. But so I'm there, and this girl who works there comes up to me, and she doesn't speak a word of English, but she wants to ask about this like giant ink on my arm. And so like we both pull out our phones, and we have this like 10-minute long conversation completely via Google Translate, just typing things and sharing it back and forth about Zelda. She's an enormous Zelda fan herself. Her favorite is Wind Waker. And so we talked all about it entirely like across this language barrier, just using our devices. And it was like such a fun conversation. Talking about like, I grew up with things like Link to the Past. She grew up more like the Twilight Princess generation, and like who our favorite characters are. Entirely that way, and it was so much fun. It was so cool.
It's super cool.
Yeah, it was, and like I get used to the fact that like not everybody necessarily recognizes that like it's a Zelda tattoo, but of course I should have realized that they would, of all the places in the world you could go where they're like, yeah, that's a Zelda tattoo. It's fair enough. So yeah, I had the best time there. They had like cool pencils and posters and so many great shirts. And it is funny. It really did reinforce something that you had mentioned, Logan, about being there before, where like it definitely identifies what their big franchises are. Of course, Mario. Of course, Zelda. Pikmin has a really big presence there. Animal Crossing, a really big presence there. And the other one, with a massive section there, Splatoon. They have a very, very big section dedicated to Splatoon, and it's all so cool. It's so stylish. Like that, like urban hip hop, colorful art style on all of it is amazing. They also had a giant wall of amiibo, and like I don't know if it's every amiibo on the planet, but they have a lot of amiibo there that you can get. It is a store that I could spend infinite amounts of time in and just like browse over and over again.
It's so hard to pick. It's so hard to pick what to get there because there is so much stuff.
I wanted everything.
The Splatoon thing I remember that was really cool was like that it's an umbrella that is the umbrella is really colorful, and then the sleeve for it is like the ink case they wear on their backs in Splatoon 3. So when you put it in, it looks like a full ink case, but then you take it out and it's an umbrella. And it's like they just have so much clever stuff like that.
Yeah, no, I love it.
Let's hear about TGS. What'd you see?
So TGS was cool. TGS is huge. I will say that. Logan, you and I have been to a few PAXs before, and I've mentioned in the past that like of the PAXs, PAX West, formerly known as PAX Prime, is the big one. This is maybe 5 times that in size and scope. Like totally different stratosphere. I think at any given time there's maybe like 250,000 people there.
That's crazy.
There's
Wow.
it's funny. It's in the this massive convention hall, and like all of the presences there are enormous too. Giant trussed out structures with LED screens and like booth babes. I didn't know that people still did booth babes, but apparently they do them at TGS. And it was exactly
That's crazy.
what
I would not have guessed that. I would not have known that they still do that.
Either.
Yeah, all over the place. And again, it was this day and age a little shocking. But it was exactly what I had always believed E3 to be, and I never got a chance to experience in the industry because they stopped doing it by the time I was like doing this professionally. But it was exactly that. There were enormous stage shows. Like Sega had this enormous presence where they did like people in like costumes doing like Shadow the Hedgehog like performances. At one point, it was for one of their upcoming games. I forget which, but they had like a live performance of a monk singing the like soundtrack to the songs on them. Or they had like this like pull-up performances. Like it was a crazy spectacle, and this was happening all the time, and it was so cool. I got to play a lot of really cool games. I got to play Metal Gear Solid 3 Delta, and I'm a big Metal Gear Solid fan, so that was a lot of fun. And I will say, in addition to the enormous booths, because like Sony, giant booth, Capcom, giant booth, Bandai Namco, etc., there was a ton of indie stuff. There was basically multiple indie villages, and when you go through, I remember I spent 3 days walking these 9 halls, right? 9 full-size halls, and then finally on the evening of like that second to last day, one of my buddies that I'm there with is like, hey, what'd you think of halls 10, 11, and 12? And I'm like, what do you mean halls 10, 11, and 12? And there's like an entire detached group of buildings with more halls that was like almost dedicated to indie stuff and shops that like the rest of it was so big. I didn't even know there was more to go see. And then I went and I saw that and it was amazing. It was awesome. Tokyo Game Show is so cool. I will say they do 2 like business and media days and then 2 open to everybody days. And oh man, it is hard to get around on those last 2 days. It is so packed with people. Just moving from one side to the other is a huge challenge. But if you can do it and you get through the lines, you can see a lot of really, really cool stuff. A lot of it, I will say, like a good portion of it, not coming to the West even, which is really interesting. Like to check out some of those things. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And like in particular, like a lot of the visual novels. I went to go check out a couple, and they're like not available in English. I'm like, that's fine. I'll watch it at least, and be confused by what's going on. So it was a very cool show.
And you saw the Professor Layton booth. You sent me a picture. It looked awesome.
I did.
About that?
You did?
Yeah, so the Professor Layton booth was enormous. Again, so like, Logan, if you think back on whatever to you was the biggest booth we saw at PAX, this was about that size. Mm-hmm. It was huge. And it had this massive, like physical cutout kind of diorama display. It was emitting steam the whole time, which was extremely cool because it is, Professor Layton in the new world of steam. And I will say, like, that line was huge, always. Like, there was always a massive wait to go see the Professor. Like, people were really eating it up, which I think is a great sign for a series that I know is really near and dear to your heart. I definitely played some, like, really cool stuff. Again, I mentioned some, like, they had Dragon Ball Z Sparking and Monster Hunt. They literally had 2 full booths. Like, when I say booth, I don't mean like a table and things, but I mean like a giant like chunk of a hall. There were 2 different ones dedicated to Monster Hunter. That's how big the presence was there. That was cool. I got to go hands-on and play the PS5 Pro, which was really interesting because I was pretty skeptical of it. And I'm a little bit more intrigued by it now that I've actually seen it in action. Check out my write-up on that at digitaltrends.com. And there were a couple little hidden gems that I think people should keep an eye out for. In particular, there's one game that is available on Switch now. I think it released like the day after I saw it there, called Fast Penguin. And you have to say it that way. It's got like 5 A's in it. And it's free to play. But it's not, from what I can tell, it's not full of like a bunch of like predatory stuff. It's just, but there's like some cosmetic stuff you can get. I want you to picture the intersection point between Mario Kart and Fall Guys. That's basically what it is.
You're speaking my language right now. That sounds so good.
I forget how many. I want to say it's like 40 racers and stuff, and you're all penguins, and you basically start at the top of a hill, and you're all basically on like soapbox derby cars, right? Gravity is pulling you down the entire way, and it is chaos as you're bumping into each other, running each other, trying to drive a really clean line and get to the head of it. People are falling off the sides left and right. It is so funny. It is so fun. It is so chaotic. And again, it is free. Like this, I think this should be like a future Nintendo Boardroom Game Night game because it is so fun and so funny. And I cannot recommend it highly enough, especially because the price is right. So that's probably my number one like Nintendo related takeaway for everybody is check out.
That sounds so cool. That sounds super fun.
Penguin.
It's a great name.
It looks like
I've been getting emails about that one and like entered it into the
maybe read it sometime.
Stuff, but I haven't looked at it yet. Yeah.
Is it in the database?
Right now, it looks like it's.
Yes, it's there.
What's that?
I asked if it was in the database.
Oh, it's in the database. Yeah. It's on Steam, Epic Game Store, Switch, PS5, Xbox Series is coming later, but it does have cross-platform support.
Awesome. Sounds super cool. Yeah, well, it sounds like an amazing trip, and you just describing TGS and how big it was, it makes me miss E3 so dearly, because I got to go to like the last real one, and walking around like Nintendo's New Donk City, I just want them to do something like that again, and they just won't, because there's no reason for them to, but it's such a cool element of this industry that fans now get to go see at a lot of these events, but they just don't do them the same way. The Nintendo booth at PAX was cool. They ushered you through 4 games, we played Zelda, we played Mario Party, NES and Star Wars Hunters, but there wasn't that same flair. Like, there were crazy cap shops set up in person at E3, like just insane stuff. Nintendo Live, actually, that was it. That was the closest I've had to feeling that again, but now they're not doing those as much anymore either.
And I would say
unfortunate circumstances.
That's probably the closest analog to what a lot of that felt like. Because like for so much of it, you really could just like be in the area of a game you're interested in, and you're having a good time. Like I sat there. I'm not even like a big fighting games guy, but I just sat there and like watched a tournament of like King of Fighters or something like that that's coming up. Cool. That was really fun, and like the sets were all like very immersive. One that I hope comes to Switch at some point was Double Dragon Revive, which is gorgeous. It's like it's the classic beat 'em up series, but like frankly, those games have not been good for a long time. But this one was really good. The action was fast and smooth, and it had this really cool thing where like there were environmental things all over the area that you could like knock people into. So like at one point, I'm fighting a bunch of dudes, and there's one guy with like a yellow health bar. He's a little bit tougher, like not quite a mini boss, but like a lieutenant kind of guy. And I hit him with a quick combo, and he just landed in the garbage can, and the lid closed on him, and he was gone. Like he was done. He was over with. It has a bunch of stuff like that. Like I uppercut somebody through a basketball hoop, threw somebody in a refrigerator. So like that's one that I think would be perfectly at home on the Switch.
Nice. Any others to shout out before we move on? You did get to go to the Nintendo Museum, right? You did not get drawn in that raffle?
I did not. I tried. I tried, dear listeners. I did, but my number did not come up.
In 20 years, you'll be able to go to the Nintendo Museum and see an Alarmo in their cabinets with all the other toys and stuff they've
made. Cash in
some kid will be like, what is that? Because there's no sign that tells me what that is. It's just an alarm clock sitting in a glass case.
It'll be in one of those like little rooms like the batting cages, except it's just you and a bed and 5 minutes to catch a nap.
That sounds good. Can't wait to go to the Nintendo Museum to see the Alarmo exhibit. Let's talk about Zelda. Let's talk about Echoes of Wisdom. Justin just talked a lot about Japan, and now we're going to make him talk more because we haven't heard what he thinks of the new Zelda game yet. It's been out for a week now. Chris and I talked about it a lot last week. Not as high on it as we maybe hoped that we would be. Justin, you played the preview event, the same preview I played, that we both really, really loved. How are you feeling about the full game, and how much have you played?
Yeah, I think I am really in the same boat as you. There are elements of it that I adore. And I will say the demo portion that we played, like, I don't think it was misleading at all. I think that's extremely reflective of what the end game is about. And so the things that I loved about it, I really like. I think the puzzles in particular, I love them. Like, anytime you come up to it, you can kind of see the connective tissue for maybe what they were thinking when they put it together, and then you can either participate in it, or you can absolutely break the rules of the game and do something entirely fresh and unique, which is my favorite thing to do. Especially spiders, man. Spiders are my solution to everything right now. Just riding those suckers up and down walls. So right now, I finished my second dungeon. I opted to go the Gerudo Desert path, same as Chris. I'm having fun. I will say things that stand out, like just like literally moving around feels awesome. Like, I love the speed that Zelda moves at, especially when you start like spinning. The area, like the world feels big, but I don't really fast travel that much because like it's you move quick, and I like the way that like just like the locomotion of it. I did do the exact same thing that some folks did, where I went to that tomb and lit those torches too early, and got kind of annoyed when I couldn't figure out like what I needed to do there, and then I just had to come back later. And I think that in a lot of ways is sort of emblematic of like my main issues with it is like listen, I love you, Grezzo, but you're not Nintendo's like internal first party studios. Like, they frankly don't make mistakes like that. Like, that's like stuff like that doesn't pass the muster. I will say, having been through two dungeons, I love them. I think really at my heart, I am a Link to the Past kid. The world is extremely Link to the Past. We've seen the maps about how it's inlaid on top of it. The dungeons so far feel extremely Link to the Past. And they do a good job of letting me do what I really like, which is being very methodical and clearing every single room and finding every treasure chest. And I get to just like learn and know every square inch of the dungeons I've been in so far, and I get to solve some puzzles, and I get to think of creative solutions to things. And so I like that a lot. Performance bugs me, and it bugs me more than I thought it would. I'm the type of person that, like, usually when people complain about frame rates, I tend to roll my eyes, honestly. I think that, like, if you get really, like, again, like, I grew up where, you know, you would be a Ninja Turtle and do a bow staff move, and you would drop to, like, 3 frames per second. Like, I'm not worried if I'm dropping down to 45 or even 30. But some areas in the open world, especially in the beginning when you're in like the area around Hyrule Castle, like it chugs bad. And so like that has bothered me. I will say my biggest issue though is combat. And it actually does bug me quite a bit. And it's not through a lack of sword swinging. Frankly, I don't really like using the sword fighter form because it makes me feel a little bit too much like I'm playing a classic Zelda game. I think it has to do with the way that, at least in like normal overworld battles, you summon a creature and then you generally like run and hide. And to me, there's something like that's thematically opposed to what I really want out of this game, which is for Zelda to have agency and be in control and be in command over everything. And throwing some monsters out and then hiding while they do the work kind of takes that away from me. Early on, I was doing things like throwing those urchins down, binding enemies, running them into it, and like that's largely gone away. That's become fairly ineffective. You can still occasionally like throw enemies off of cliffs and stuff, which is really fun. But it's not like, you know, Pikmin where you're throwing your summons on them, or Pokemon where you're like issuing commands. You don't really issue commands even. You just kind of throw them out there and you try not to get hurt. And so like, I'm hoping that changes over the course of the game. I'm hoping we get to the point where the summons that I have, the echoes that I have are like specific in application, unique, do things in a certain way where I start feeling like I'm more in command of like those battlefield engagements.
I think that does happen. I think that you get to a point where you are making a lot more elemental decisions. Oh, I'm fighting an ice thing. What should I use against that? And also you just eventually can use more of them, which I think solves that problem a little bit. Combat is something I thought got stronger as the game went. And then also eventually I just realize it's more engaging and more fun and more effective to not drop an echo and run away like you described. That's what I did for the first half of the game. And then I realized they attack right after you place them. So place it, let it attack once, then replace it with another one and just kind of stay hanging out by the enemy.
Yeah. And I found myself doing that a lot. Like I got those like turbo moths that like rocket at things, and so I just keep like kind of launching those, pretending I'm Samus shooting missiles at things.
Yeah, it does feel like
that. And that's all right. But like that also, again, and I'm still fairly early, and I hope it's exactly like you say, where I do feel like my gameplay through Zelda does become something where I feel like more in control of the situation. But like the other thing that kind of bugs me a bit is I guess extremely slight echo spoilery thing for early in the game, but like you get higher versions of certain echoes, like Bokoblin level 2, and like, you know, if I see a Bokoblin and I use all of my echo energy to drop a Bokoblin, they have a fight. And then later in the game, I see a level 2 Bokoblin, and I use all of my energy to drop a level 2 Bokoblin. They have a fairly equal fight. I don't know if that even feels like progress, right? It's just everything's reskinned, and I'm doing the exact same thing. So I hope that changes quite a bit. I will say, when it comes to the combat, though, there is one really, really big exception, and that is that so far, I freaking love the boss fights. They are so much fun, and that it is the exact opposite, where I feel like I very much have to like figure out the puzzle that is the boss, and I have to do things as the player. Like I have to, you know, rip the orb out of that first boss. I have to cause the weird mole flying eagle thingy to like crash into things and do these things. So I feel very much like I have that agency back. And so like I will say the thing that is most compelling to me right now from a gameplay standpoint is I want to get to the next boss. I want to crack the next combat puzzle. I want to see the next way I can approach these things and what I can do with them, because that to me, like, that is exhilarating so far, and I love it. On the flip side, not to keep like going up and down, I will say, like, I'm at the point now where I have so many echoes, I kind of get annoyed when there's new echoes to pick up. Like, my menu is so long, it's such a pain to navigate. I know which ones I want to use for most situations. When you pick up a brand new one and it's at the other end of the menu, like, I don't want to scroll all the way over there to it. And my hope was that they would all be like really unique and they would all do different things. They'd all do creative things. But again, having a level 1, level 2 version of the same thing is a bummer. I picked up 3 different statues that are just statues that, as far as I can tell, have a very one-off usage. Those are cluttering up my menu. The fact that I can't like hide them, like just give me a hide function, and I would be 100 times happier with it. And so, like, to me, the echoes is like I want to see a V2 of this. Like, I want to see a refined version of this idea where they do fix those things, where they, make it easier to navigate, where they make them particularly unique and find like clever ways to remix the way you use them and things like that. Because at least right now, like the UI is a detriment to me, like experimenting with, which is what I feel like would be the most fun part of the Echoes themselves. So like overall, I would say, oh no, please go ahead.
Oh, you can finish your thought.
All right, so overall, I like it. I think it's really cool. I don't think it stands with the greats of the series. I think that like the elements that do bother me they could turn around by the time I finish the playthrough. But at least my early sense is like this is a really cool, fun thing to do. But I'm still waiting for the great Zelda focused experience that I'm looking for. And the last thing I'll say on that is, as I was playing, I had a realization about like what really it is about this series that's always like struck me and has been so impactful on me over the years, and that is its ability to deliver these like jaw-dropping, impactful moments. Like going back to Link to the Past with that rainy, moody intro, to Zelda being kidnapped, to even like when you go through, like I remember the first time I figured out the dungeon where you reveal Blind the thief in his true form, like stuff like that sticks in my head. Or Ocarina meeting Zelda for the first time, her escape from Castletown, when Link getting trapped when you pull out the sword, spoilers for some old games. Or like Wind Waker, I always think of the very end of Wind Waker with a sword in the face, and basically the entirety of Twilight Princess. And I think Breath of the Wild and especially Tears of the Kingdom do these better than maybe any games on the planet, especially in this series, of like leading to these singular moments. Like the very, very ending of Tears of the Kingdom is something I am never going to forget. I'm never going to forget what the scene is. I'm never going to forget how that made me feel. And that is what Zelda does so well. And it is something that I feel like in modern days, a lot of these their 2D versions of it haven't had that same impact on me. I'm hopeful this does by the time I reach the end of it, but I'm not convinced that it will.
Yeah, that's fair. Link Between Worlds, though, that has several moments that do that very exact thing for me. That's my exception, as always. But no, I'm totally with you, and I've gotten a little bit more distance from this game since finishing it. I think that what you were talking about, the combat, kind of plays into the central idea that I've had about it, which is that a lot of the game feels very un-Nintendo-like to me in some surprising ways. In that, usually I feel like a Nintendo game, they have the core idea first, and they build everything on top of it. And Super Mario Odyssey, I think, is a really good comparison point. That entire game, everything from big overarching story to the level design to individual combat encounters to bosses, is built around throwing the hat and capture what you hit. That's the whole game. It's the entirety of it. Echoes of Wisdom is not entirely built around the Echoes. The combat encounters, you could take Echoes and Zelda entirely out, plop Link with his sword and shield in, and it would play like every top-down Zelda game you have ever played. The puzzles are built around the Echoes, the bosses are built around the Echoes, but a lot of the traversal and almost all of the combat isn't. And so it feels disjointed, and it feels like, okay, we built this really cool mechanic, we don't know how to build the game to go with it. And that, I think, is a big part of it being Grezzo. Like you said, it's not Nintendo. Maybe Nintendo had some loftier ideas that their studio they assigned this to just didn't. And that's okay, right? Like I said last week, give Grezzo top-down Zelda forever. They've earned it. This is good enough for that. Yeah. They'll grow and improve. But I think that's how I feel about it, is like, man, it doesn't feel as seamless as most Nintendo games do. And then what you mentioned about the torch thing, we talked about it last week, but that just is this game in a microcosm to me. It is straddling the two worlds of Zelda. It is stuck between them. It doesn't fully commit to either, so it's worse than both of them. And yeah, it didn't leave much of an impression as I've gotten further from it. Chris, sorry, you've been silent there for like a half hour. Do you have any new thoughts on Zelda to share?
No, I mean, I think Justin nailed everything that we said both last week and that I continue to feel as I continue to play it. I think it's why I'm not like itching to play it, quite honestly. Like in the beginning, most of my time when I'm in combat, I'm boxing people in or enemies in with the spiky ball guys, because it's like it's at the front of my menu. And honestly, like what you said earlier, Justin, that I wanted to jump in but I didn't want to cut you off, why are we dropping new echoes at the end of the menu? Like, just put it at the front. If it's new, I obviously want to try using it.
You can tab to last learned, and then you can pick the last thing that you learned. Yes, that's one of the sword options.
Yeah, but
I need to
which means then if you want to use the echoes you like to use, then you have to change your sorting option. The next time you open the menu, it's such a mess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm not defending it. It's really, absolutely a mess. I just want to point out
it's horrible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's a little disappointing. I still think it's really good. Like I said, it's definitely on the lower tier of my favorite Zelda games. It's not one of my favorite Zelda games.
I'll say
which
this.
Is okay.
I've played more Link's crossbow training than I have because of Wisdom this week.
Yes.
That doesn't surprise me at all. Last thing here real quick, because I'm just about out of time, is Chris has also been playing some Mario Party 2, as have a lot of our listeners. We've been running a Mario Party 2
I have
tournament.
a really good story about this.
Super Mario Party Jamboree is out next week. I've been putting together my ranking of the Mario Party series, which Chris said is entirely wrong, and then he didn't give me his when I asked for it. So, Chris, how's Mario Party 2 been going, and what are your favorite Mario Party games?
I'm not going to rank the Mario Party right now because I think I need to sit with that. That's why you didn't get it, because it was the end of the night last night at 11, and I was like,
too important.
I need to sit with this. It's too important. Like, I need to be able to defend myself when he inevitably yells at me. As far as Mario Party 2 goes, it went super well. It was myself, Chad, Tim, and Neko or Nico. I don't know how we're pronouncing that person's username. I apologize. Really great folks. Really great fellas. I did end up winning. You know, Wario can't die, so there's that. Thank you. So a crazy thing happened while we were playing. We were in the last 5 turns. It was turn 19. Somebody landed on the space that I was on. We ended up in a duel, and we, instead of like other Mario Party games, like I'm not that familiar with Mario Party 2. They were like, okay, you're gonna do this thing where you have to alternate tapping A and B as quickly as you can, and whoever does it the most wins. Well, I'm sitting here with my N64 Switch Online Pro controller, whatever, and I'm doing the thing. And I'm holding it like this, where, like, if those are listening, my hand is wrapped around the top of the controller. Well, with that, as I'm hitting it rapidly, I hit the home button for long enough that it went to, like, the menu that popped up. And I'm hosting the game. Then I put it to sleep, and the game went to sleep, so everybody disconnected. But here was the crazy part, was that I brought it back up, they all dropped off, and I went, wait a minute. I still have the game running. I wonder if I save a snapshot of what's happening right now, if everybody rejoins into Switch Online in the same in the same order, will it still work? And it absolutely did. I just started up a new match, and then everybody was in the same slot, and then we were able to finish the game. And I was like, that's amazing that even happened and worked. Yeah.
It is such an underrated feature of NSO. We've talked about it. Being able to play virtual console games online and how well it works is awesome. It's what inspired this tournament that we're doing. So, yeah, that's super cool. Who won the duel, though, because of all those shenanigans?
Oh, I lost, yeah. Okay. Yeah. I lost the duel twice because, like, the N64 controller is just shaped weird. Like, I couldn't figure out a good strategy. I'm not on a couch. I'm in an office chair. Like, it was weird. I know.
Yeah, I know the duel. Mario Party 2 has cool board-specific duels where they are themed after whatever the theme of that board is, and that's a really cool idea. Yeah, Mario Party 2 rules. It is such a good game. I'm playing on Sunday. I can't wait to play it.
The one thing I couldn't believe was how many mini games from Mario Party 1 were in it.
Yes, it's very much a redo of Mario Party 1. It renders Mario Party 1 almost obsolete, in my opinion, because Mario Party 1 doesn't have items, it doesn't have duels, and that game hates your guts. And Mario Party 2, they dialed some of that stuff in a little better, and it's Mario Party 1's like Breath of the Wild, and 2 is like Tears of the Kingdom. And with that's another episode of the Toadstool Boardroom in the books. We're a weekly Nintendo show here on Thursdays at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Video version is over on YouTube. You can find the show on Twitter at ToadstoolBR. Email us, toadstoolboardroom@gmail.com. Justin, where can people find you and all of your awesome TGS work?
Find me on Twitter at KOREIS. Look for my piece on the PS5 Pro on digitaltrends.com, and keep an eye on Rolling Stone Gaming this Friday afternoon. You might see a familiar name pop up over there with a piece that I can't quite talk about yet.
Awesome. Chris, where can people find you?
You can find me at Shrives93. I have not been tweeting much, but I have been haphazardly posting in the Toadstool Boardroom Discord. So if you want to chat, I recommend you hop in there.
You can find me on Twitter at Logan J. Plant. Please go check out my Iwata Alarmo piece. I'm happy with how that one turned out, and it goes a little bit more into what we were talking about in this segment on the show. But for now, that's all the time I got. I got to get back to playing Animal Crossing New Leaf on my Nintendo 3DS. Thanks so much for listening. Have a great week. We'll catch you next time right back here in the Toadstool Boardroom.